CEO of D&S Performance Optimisation, and today I'm going to be talking about how I tripled my sales to 1.5 billion and how you can triple yours too. Before I do that though, can I just ask in the audience, how many people are in sales? Is that it? We're all in sales. How many people here, when they're a kid, tried to sell to their mum or their dad for that ice cream or that extra time with some TV? Or alternatively, when you became a little bit older and you're 18, 19, 20, how many people here sold for that girlfriend or boyfriend? I certainly did. I'm a short-ass guy. I had to sell really, really hard. And then when you become a boss or a team member within your business, you have to try and sell your ideas to your team or to your CEO or whatever it might be. And then obviously we sell to our clients as well. Sales is all about people. How many people here have had a meeting with someone who's been a little bit negative and they come out feeling a little bit drained? Anybody? Yeah? Or you've been selling yourself and you feel fantastic. You feel enthused and you go in there and you get a really positive result. How many people have had that? Positive energy can produce really positive results. And if you optimize your energy, you can optimize your performance in your life, but also your job. So let's optimize a little bit of energy in the room. Can I ask you all to stand up? And can I ask you to high five or handshake someone you don't know? Right. Now that you've all introduced yourselves, if you don't mind, I'm going to introduce myself. You can please sit down. So I worked 21 years in the fund management and hedge fund world, selling B2B to the likes of financial advisors, global banks, institutional pension fund managers, and I was selling the likes of mutual funds. So I was selling portfolios of stocks and shares, I was selling portfolios of commercial property, private equity funds, global macro funds, you name it, I basically sold it. And I worked initially, I worked for an engineering firm called Chamberlain Hill, because I was doing my master's and they offered me a job as quality manager. And I don't know if you know Chamberlain Hill, but they're an iron foundry. And in the iron foundry there's soot everywhere. And I was covered in soot, head to toe, up my nose, in my ears, everywhere. And I'd go home, see my girlfriend, and my girlfriend would take one look at me and go, piss off, you're not coming anywhere near. So I thought, right, well maybe I might have a little change of heart and have a look at something else. And I had a look around, and I also spoke to the CFO of Chamberlain Hill, who was my mentor. And I said to him, look, I'm interested, I've got a lot of ambition. How much does the CEO earn? And he told me about 150 grand. I found out, though, through a friend of mine, that the CEO of Fidelity, which was my next firm that I worked for, was earning 4.2 billion. Oh, million, sorry, not million. And at that point, I thought, right, well, if I could become a clerk in Fidelity, I'd probably earn more than in Chamberlain Hill. So I moved across and I started working for Fidelity Investments on their broker line, doing 150 calls a day, learning a lot about sales and telesales. And then I moved across to Lazard to do sales support, then sales at HSBC, then sales management at Aviva, and then sales director at Columbia Threadneedle, and then finally headed up sales and marketing at Davy Asset Management. And my first tip in terms of success in selling that I really realized was, when I sold to a financial advisor, I might get 500,000. When I sold to a stockbroker, I might get 5 million. When I sold to an asset manager, I might get 10 or 15 million. And maybe to a bank, maybe 100 million. And in fact, one institutional pension fund manager gave me 285 million in one hit. And what I realized very rapidly was, if you really believe in what you're selling and you believe that you're adding value to other people, and you hang around with the right people, you can get very different results. So I always say to my team and people is really target the right accounts. Don't spend lots of time with the people you love. Spend time with the accounts that actually give you business. So in 2008 then, obviously I'm sure we all suffered from a bit of stress. Anyone else suffered from a little bit of stress in 2008? Yeah? I actually suffered so badly that in 2009 I had every ailment under the sun. I was passed from doctor to doctor, specialist from specialist, every probe in every single orifice you could possibly imagine. And ended up then in 2009 having 2 operations on my digestive tract, which went horribly wrong. And for the next 3 years then I was suffering massively from stress, anxiety and depression. And then in 2012 I caught a virus which unfortunately didn't agree with me, especially with the operations that I'd had. And I ended up having a near-death experience, rushed to hospital, ECG said heart, blood pressure doubled, arrived in, rushed to X-ray, and on the way to X-ray the lights went out. Well, actually the lights went on, and I was encapsulating this amazing feeling of love, energy, and connection. And that's why I talk a lot about energy all the time, because that energy that I felt was nothing like I've ever felt before. Then, after the near-death experience, I came back with a passion to help people. And my passion changed in terms of sales. It wasn't just about the sales numbers anymore. It was actually about adding value to people, trying to help other people. And I think that aura or energy came across, because 2012 was the year that I did this tripling of my sales. So I set up a business on the side which basically grew. And it's now called DNS Performance Optimisation. We do coaching, consulting, and training, sales. I do a lot of sales training. And I've worked with everybody from Viva Investors to OD Asset Management, to Barclays, you name it, a lot of the investment companies over in London, but also, I've also worked over here with the likes of Okuko. You can see down there, the CEO of Okuko, it's a software support company, has about 250 people in there, and he's given me a very nice testimonial there as well. So I now use this to try to help people as much as possible. We've got a team working for me, and my team go out and work with people like you in terms of coaching, consulting, and training. But how do we triple our sales? How do we make it happen? Now, I run a radio show on Dublin City FM called Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories, 3:30 on Friday, in case anybody wants to listen. And I use on every single one of my guests, they come on, they tend to be very successful people. And I always ask them, how do they make it happen? And I use the acronym of MAKE in terms of mindset and motivation. Motivate yourself first, then motivate your team around you, then motivate your clients to buy. Then actions and activities. It's amazing. The more active I was in business, the more successful I became. And then knowledge, know your client, know your product, and know your industry. And match your client's needs to your USPs. And also have a knowing faith in yourself. And then finally, energy and enthusiasm. I never met a salesperson on my team, or even myself, who didn't have a lot of energy, who was successful. So optimize your energy and optimize your performance in your job. I'm going to go through these one by one. First being mindset. So in terms of mindset, start by motivating yourself. There's so many people that wake up in the morning and they moan and groan and go, oh, why do I have to go to work again? And they get out of bed and they go and they're leading teams, these people. I mean, what intention is that to start the day? I always say to people, wake up with a zest in your belly. Wake up with gratitude for everything you have. Be grateful for your wife, for your husband next to you. Be grateful for your house, your job, your clients, everybody you work with. Because gratitude produces contentment and starts the day in a really positive way. Next, in terms of when I was selling and I was tripling my sales, I would go into all of my meetings. I'd get off at London Bridge. I'm Irish originally, but I'd get off at London Bridge. I'd go up to my client meetings and I'd be visualizing success in that meeting. Visualization is a very powerful tool. Do you know that 85% of billionaires, multimillionaires, actors, actresses, they all do some kind of visualization techniques and meditate. So they can reduce stress, increase energy for their job, but they also can visualize the end in mind. Very important to do that. Also self-talk. So many Irish people tend to put themselves down, but actually you can use self-talk to bring yourself up, to make sure. So I would walk in, I'd be going to a meeting, I'd be going, I am going to have a fantastic meeting with this guy. I am going to add as much value as possible to this particular client. And funny enough, the more you say it, your subconscious kind of takes it on, and next minute, wow, you actually do add value to them, and you do become like the most successful person in the industry. And what I'm doing is I'm creating what I call a knowing mindset. Knowing mindset. Or McKinsey did a study, and they call it the flow. They did a 10-year study on employees and showed that employees were 500% more productive if they got into what they call this flow. So that's 1,000% in 2 days. So I help people in industries and businesses get into the flow. Really, really important. It's interesting, in getting into that knowing mindset, I always say, there's a friend of mine who told me a story about how his son was trying to achieve something. And he took his son out the back, and there was 3 trees out the back, and he said, look at those 3 trees, son. There's a small tree, a medium-sized tree, and a big tree. Why is that? And his son said, well, Dad, the small tree's in the shade, the big tree has loads of light. And he goes, right, which tree would you like to be? And he goes, well, I'd like to be the big tree, Dad. Good. Whatever you want in life, decide what it is. And know you're going to achieve it. And if I was asked, Louise, for example, I know Louise very well. Louise, if I was going to ask, your name is Louise, correct? Do you think your name is Louise? Do you believe your name is Louise? Or do you just know your name is Louise? You know it, right? Just know what you want to achieve, and regardless of the pitfalls along the way, along the journey, just know you're going to achieve that. Get into that knowing mindset. I would go into every single meeting knowing I was going to achieve a sale. And I did. Next, and obviously I said earlier, adding value. When I had that near-death experience, it was the same year I tripled my sales to 1.75 billion. The aura I was giving off, because I thought I was a goner that year, my health was really bad. I thought I was screwed. So every single meeting I had, it was all about adding value to that person. It was all about giving back to others. And I think that energy or ethos just came off me, and the client understood that I was just there for them. And because of that, they wanted to deal with it and gave me some business. So add as much value to clients as possible. Persistence. I mean, I think it was Edison who said it took him 10,000 goes to perfect the light bulb. You know, in terms of sales, it's very important to be persistent. You will get knockbacks. So keep making that sale call after sale call, that meeting after meeting, and eventually you'll make the sale. But have a growth mindset. There's so many companies. I've actually worked for CEOs both over here and in London, and they've had this worry after 2008 about, you know, cost and spending too much money, worrying about what the competition are doing, worrying about loss of business. And I can tell you now that where focus goes, energy flows. So if you focus on worry about cost and worry about loss, that's where you'll stay. Whereas, I had a company that I was working with, one of my clients called Vestra Wealth, 10 guys, left UBS, set up Vestra, and they bought an office space for 150 people. Within 3 years, they filled that. Because they had a vision, they set the intention of what they wanted to achieve at the start. They didn't worry about costs. So don't worry about costs, really concentrate on what you want, rather than what you don't want. And on top of that, learn from other people's successes. I said I had a radio show earlier called Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories. I've had some amazing people, like Louise, who you'll hear from later on. But I've also had the likes of, Gary McGann, the chairman of Paddy Power, and ex-CEO of Aer Lingus. I had on Stuart Lancaster, the Leinster coach. I've had on, TV stars like the Dragon's Den people, like Eamon Quinn, Peter Casey, who was going for the elections just a couple of weeks ago as well. So amazing people. And I've learned from them of what made them successful so that I can use that in my coaching and training with people like yourselves. So learn from other people. And as I said in the previous point, in terms of cost saving, don't concentrate so much on the cost savings, concentrate on what you want. And I would highly recommend traveling first class or business class. I've done that many times. I was traveling across to London, traveling business class, sitting next to a guy, and he was the CEO of a company. He ended up getting me into his company and paying me thousands of pounds to do a keynote speech and train some of his business people as well. You never know who you could be sitting next to. Be in the right place at the right time, and you might meet the right people, and it can change the course of your business. So travel first class. So that's mindset. Moving on to actions. Anyone seen this film? Anyone seen this film? Yeah? So this film is called In the Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. He holds the phone next to his ear and makes call after call after call without even taking away from his ear. Activity, activity, activity. The more action you have, the more lucky you become. But you can't just aimlessly put loads of activity in place without having a business plan in place. I mean, how many people here have had a business plan, they put it in place with their boss, they show it to the boss goes, that's great, off you go, and then you don't look at it for the rest of the year. Anybody had that before? And then at the end of the year, you sit down, and he or she criticizes you for not having done this, that, the other, or commends you for doing everything on your business plan. Anybody had that? No, business plans shouldn't be put in place just for 1 year. You should be putting a business plan in with a target for the year, quarter by quarter, month by month, week by week, and even day by day. Put maybe 3 targets every day of something that will lead you towards your end target during the year. We also need to know where we're going as well in terms of clients. I said earlier on, if you hang around with the right clients, you can make some really good results. I had a client called Jupiter Asset Management. They had 12 billion under management in their fund of funds, and I knew they were interested in our European equity fund. And they had 4 funds in their European equity allocation. And so I knew that if I replaced one of those funds, it was a 300 million opportunity every time I went to see them. So client map exactly how much each individual meeting is worth that you go into. So many people spend a lot of time with their friends. They meet a client, they become friends with them, and they go have lunch with them, dine with them, and what else. Try and really map the clients out that are going to give you a lot of business. And make sure you're doing that all the time, and analyze that as well. And then activity map your days as well. I obviously activity map my week, but I also do it on daily. And I would actually look for my main meeting of the day being a lunch meeting with a CEO or a CFO or a CIO or something like that. And I put that as the lunch meeting, and if he goes to, to play squash or tennis or goes to the gym, I'd go with him. And then I map 2 geographic meetings either side of that, maybe at 11 o'clock, maybe at 2:30, so that you optimize your time in seeing clients during the middle of the day. And then in the morning, go and do your admin, because you're fresh. And then in the afternoon, you've had 3 meetings, right, with people in industry who might give you industry tips, market tips. They might tell you what they've been doing with their portfolios. They might tell you what's been doing, in some kind of product information that you can use in your sales calls and add value to your clients later on in the afternoon. Plus, in the afternoon, people are happier because they know they're going home in a couple of hours. So they're much more receptive to taking your call. So make your calls in the afternoon, do your admin in the morning, and try and do all your meetings in the middle of the day. Optimize your time. And try and make as much calls, emails, and meetings as possible, and they'll lead to sales. Now, as we know, social media is very important, and Louise will be talking about Facebook social media. She's the expert, actually. But social media is really, really important. Actually, Louise gave me this tip. She said, in terms of putting out videos, keep them short, put one in the morning when people are traveling to work, one at lunchtime, and one at the end of the day as well. Really good idea, really easy to do. And I find I've got 21,000 LinkedIn contacts. So if any of you want me to work with you, I will advertise your firm for you as well at the same time across them. There's a lot of billionaires, multimillionaires in my LinkedIn. And I would put out a video and I'd maybe get 20,000 clicks or views. I'd put out maybe a photo, maybe get 10,000. Put out wording, you maybe get 1,500. So try and put out as much video and photograph as possible and you'll get much more impact. Finally then, in terms of actions, PR and articles. I was head of sales, marketing, and daily asset management. We won the the Global Fund Manager of the Year award for our marketing, basically. And it was basically very simple. We did no efforts. We didn't spend a bean on advertising. I got loads of articles out into the press. There are so many publications out there that are crying out for content. So put some interesting articles out there and use those articles to advertise your business. It's free marketing, right? Knowledge, know your client, know your product, and know your industry and competition. Every single meeting before I went in, I'd look on LinkedIn, I'd look on Facebook. I'd try and understand, maybe where my client had gone to school, what interests were he in, what charity was he helping. And then I'd look on their website at their portfolio construction, seeing exactly what kind of funds they're investing in. So in different industries, what kind of products they were using, why they used them, what they were using them for, what their investment style is, or how they think. Get underneath the bonnet of your client and understand exactly what their knowledge is so that you can match their client needs to your USPs of your product. And then never, ever, ever knock the competition. Where there's competition, there's a sense of lack. Where there's collaboration, there's infinite abundance. You can create new things collaborating with other companies. You can work together. Plus, I would go and meet one of my sales directors in another company, find out all about their funds, and if they had something that I didn't have, I could then offer it up to my client, adding value to them. And creating trust, because it's not just all about yourself, it's all about adding value to the client. So get to know your competition. Really, really positive. Plus, they might have been looking after a client longer than you, and that obviously means then you can use that in terms of, maybe you might find out their favorite football team, or the names of their kids, or whatever it might be. So know your client, know your product, and know your market. Finally, energy. I talked about it earlier on, optimize your energy, you can optimize your performance in your job and in your life. So many people in sport, I used to play hockey, so many people in sport, they get up and they really make sure they're in the optimal state for playing their hockey match or rugby match or football match or whatever it might be. And yet when they go to work, they might have had a few drinks the night before, they just walk in, go into a client meeting, not enough preparation, and they think that's all right. You get paid for your job. You should be taking it more seriously. You don't get paid, maybe you do, some of you, you don't get paid to do sport. If you do, good on you. Positive energy, positive mindset. Positive energy equals positive mindset. The more energy you have, the more active you can become, and the more you can get more done in less time with less stress. So really optimize your energy to optimize your performance in your job. Now, I'll give you a few examples of where this worked for me. So JP Morgan was one of my accounts, and at Threadneedle, a 7-minute walk led to $1 billion account. 7 minutes. There was a lady called Liz Eldridge. She came over from JP Morgan office in New York. She was a fund researcher, and she was doing analysis on equity fund managers in the Asian market. And we had one who was reasonably good. And she'd done meetings all day, End of the day, she did the meeting with our Asian fund manager, and then afterwards she had to get back to the JP Morgan office, which was over in the West End, we were over in the City of London. And she said, where can I get a cab? And I said, look, you know, it's 4 o'clock, you're going to be an hour and a half in a cab getting over back to the West End, go to the tube. And she says, I have no idea where that is, so let me walk you down. And in that 7-minute walk, I broke up her day. I talked about her. I asked about, you know, what was she interested in London? Where was she living in America? We had a little conversation, a personal information conversation, and that led to her making the decision to putting our fund on their buy list. Now, we didn't get $1 billion straight away. Obviously, they put a chunk in, maybe of 150 million, and then it grew from there. So as sales director then, I had to work very closely with my team, collaborating, using the Optimus effect such as looking at managing other people right across the business. Because we had sales managers in the UK, US, Asia, Europe, and you had to be very careful to make sure that the product specialist or the fund manager wasn't in Hong Kong one day, and then over in New York the next day, and back in London the next day, because obviously they burn out. Very important to manage not just your own team, but the whole business, right across that business in terms of the Optimus effect. And collaborate and work as a team. We would make sure that we met on a monthly basis over the phone, and we were sharing the ideas of what was happening in every single JP Morgan office right across the globe. So that we could share that collaborative information on our CRM system, which was Salesforce, which I highly recommend, really good system. And then use a lot of energy to overlay that so that the whole thing came together in terms of teamwork to make it up to $1 billion account from scratch. Next example is Jupiter Asset Management. In 2011, Jupiter, I'd actually worked with the guys before at Lazard, and Jupiter Fund, the fund team, they had 250 million in our emerging market debt fund. In August of that year, we ended up having a road trader. It's in the press, so I'm not giving anything away. Road trader caused a lot of issues. The equivalent of the central bank, which is the FCA over in London, were all over the team like a rash. In August that year, they all left, and they all went to Standard Life. One guy stayed. He was a Brazilian guy. He could hardly speak English. I don't think he realised they'd even gone. And so one guy left, and obviously management, CEO, thought all the money was going to go. And it was like having a race car, right? You have a race car, and the race car driver leaves the team. You don't really have the same faith in that race car team anymore. But what we did is we promoted the guy straight up into the driving seat. I rang the client before the press release went out, creating trust with the client. And then I said to them, look, let us re-pitch for the business. This guy's a very clever guy. But on top of that, just in case, have a look at one of our other funds, the European Equity Fund, as a switch option. Because in an open-ended investment company, which is the company that we had the sub-fund of the emerging market debt fund in, if they switch internally without moving it away from us, they save on capital gains tax. So they said, yeah. So we brought in both guys after doing a bit of training and everything like that, and ended up winning the emerging market debt fund and the European Equity Fund as well. So we could have lost 250 million, but actually we ended up taking in an extra 200 million to the emerging market debt fund, and they put 300 million into that European Equity Fund as well. So look for every situation in a positive rather than negative, and you can really turn things around. Finally, in terms of an example, is Scottish Widows Investment Partnership. Scottish Widows, one of my accounts for 5 years, I looked after them and didn't get a B. I wined them, I dined them, I brought them to every fund manager meeting we had. I collaborated, giving ideas about other funds they could use at other houses. Not a B. Then suddenly they needed a segregated mandate of something that I had. And who did they call? It wasn't Ghostbusters, it was me. So they came up, they ended up calling me, we won the business, 285 million in one hit. So what I'm trying to say is never, ever, ever give up. Never give up. Be really persistent, and it can also always pay off.